All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hireside Chats. On with us today is we have Al Wilson. He is a certified fitness professional and CEO of Ripp City Fitness right out of Cleveland. Wanted to bring Al on today to talk a little bit about philosophies on fitness and why it is so important, especially during this time, to talk about maintaining that high physical activity. Al, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, Casey, thanks for having me on the show. I definitely appreciate it. For me, I started off as the guy in the office, just like most people we know. I worked in finance, mortgage business, telecommunications, and I sat on planes, I sat in meetings, I sat behind a desk. I sat a lot. And each year I was more and more out of shape. And, just like a lot of other people, my nutrition and my diet wasn't the best. I ate maybe once or twice a day. And, I just started to get more and more out of shape and more tired. So me being in the fitness industry started with me being that person that wasn't in the best of health.
Mm.
So once I fixed myself, I started getting those questions about how did I do it? And once I started to share the information and help people, that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do. So here we are, Ripp City Fitness.
Very good. Very good. And so, as we're talking to, a lot of people that are, their employees are working really hard, and it can be tough to find that extra time in the day. But from your perspective, and especially for someone who came from the corporate world, why do you think it is so important to maintain that physical activity on a regular basis?
The number one thing, and not just that I notice, but a lot of the people that I help, is when you spend time focusing on you and when you feel better, everything else that you do is simply better. You're more productive. I mean, think about how many times you may have come into the office and you did not feel well. How productive were you on that day? So there's so many people that wake up with chronic back pain and knee pain and all these other things that you can get some help with that. Right? So the better you feel, the better you are, the better everything else is around. So it's important to stay active, stay fit, and to feel good on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can just tell you from myself too. I mean, I was always somebody, I like to stay active. When I was a recruiter, I used to swim on my lunch breaks. And I always felt like when I got back into the office, I felt recharged. I felt re-energized and refocused.
Yeah, same for me. I started out working out at home, which is so funny considering the climate that we're in. Everyone's working out at home, but that's actually how I started. I had 20-pound dumbbells. I had a pair of eights, a pull-up bar, and a stability ball, and that was it. And I started reading and researching and figuring out what to do. Oh yeah, I did go buy an elliptical for like $100. That was my routine, and I lost 38 pounds in 90 days.
Wow.
But the biggest part of that was I focused on what I ate.
Mm.
Right? I stopped eating fast food and snacks and all those other things. And I just focused on what I put in my body because that was the number one thing that I could control.
Sure. I remember I had a friend who once told me he almost looked at it like it's like the type of gas you put in the car, right? If you're putting in bad gas, the car's not going to run as well. If you put in good gas, the car's going to run better.
Absolutely. I mean, our bodies are the best thing ever made. We're like Ferraris and like high-end vehicles. And if you're putting in some regular unleaded or not even that, it's probably not going to run the best. You know what I mean?
Oh, for
so
sure.
You give yourself the best fuel. That's the goal.
Sure. And what do you think it is? We were talking a little bit ago just about the productivity standpoint. If you had to pinpoint, what do you think it is that correlates the productivity from that physical activity and that? What do you think that goes into that?
The number one thing is how you feel about yourself. Everything that you do starts with how you feel about you. So if you feel better about yourself, whether it's how you look, how you feel, you tend to do everything else with a little bit more vigor, right?
Mm.
The other part of that is the actual energy that you have. When you exercise, and I'm not going to get into all the chemical stuff, but all those feel-good hormones are released, so you tend to have a little bit more energy and you feel better. So whether you're a morning workout person, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, or lunchtime or evening, after that workout, you tend to feel a little bit better than you did, even in those moments where you're not motivated to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's very apt. So, right now, it's a very unique time. People are feeling isolated. A lot of people are being forced to work from home. Feeling very stationary. Before we even get into exercises per se, what are maybe some little things that people can do just to get started um, throughout the day?
Well, social distancing does not mean social disengagement,
Mhm.
right? You still have so many other ways to be active. If you have kids at home, I've seen more kids outside playing than I have in years, right?
Sure.
That's one of the great things that's happened. I've seen more people going on walks. So getting up, go for a walk. If it's in between calls and you're working at home, go out in the backyard, get some fresh air, take a walk down the street, right? Just get up and move as much as you can. We have a tendency to, if you're stuck behind a desk or stuck on a couch, that's where we sit for a little bit of while.
Right.
But get up and move as much as you can.
What do you think? I've heard a lot of different fitness experts have advocated for different times here and there, but what do you think is the healthy amount of time for, how long to be sitting versus how long you should be getting up and moving around?
Some people will say every hour.
Hmm.
I would say definitely every 30 minutes to an hour, get up and move. Mainly because when you sit for long periods of time, your back tends to stiffen up. It's just like a repetitive movement. If I worked in a factory and I constantly had to grab something with my arm, that
Sure.
shoulder is going to be overworked. So your hips get tight, your glutes get tight. Sitting is probably one of the worst things that you could do for your body right now.
Right.
So every 30 minutes to an hour, get up and move.
Right. Right. Yeah, it can be tough, and sometimes it's like, especially in our industry, it's like there's so much to do, and a lot of us, especially in the staffing industry, we're doing so much, and sometimes we start working, we get in at 8 o'clock, and we look up and it's noon. Um,
Yes.
so what do you think would be a good tip? I mean, I know there's some tools out there, different things you can put on your wrist that tell you to get up, but what would be a good tip for somebody who might need that reminder? What would you advocate for?
Yeah. If you're like me, put it on your schedule. And I
Yeah,
know it might sound silly, but you are the boss of your life, right? And if you put something on your schedule, you're not going to cancel it because bosses don't cancel, right? But if you're on a conference call, and sometimes they can run long, I used to be on those calls. Stand up while you're on the call, unless you have to take notes, at your laptop. Get a stand-up desk. But a lot of times I would be on a conference call, wireless headset, and I would be pacing in my office just so I didn't have to sit for long periods of time.
sure.
Once I started to move, it was more uncomfortable to sit. And I think that's the number one thing. Once you start moving, sitting is not as comfortable. So get up and walk around. Feel free to stand up on your conference calls. If it's just a call where you're sharing information, it's okay to stand up on that call. The other thing is, Casey, I love the fact that you have a headset on. A lot of people have phones, and you see this a lot.
Yeah,
And they come to me with really stiff necks.
right.
So when they try to go run, now they have a neck problem, which is really muscular. So move, stand up.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me think of I don't know if you ever saw the movie Boiler Room, but there's a line
Yes,
that
yes,
Ben Affleck says. He says, "Get up, move around. Motion creates emotion."
yes, yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more you move, the better you feel. It's not a cliche.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about it from perspective of actually trying to get into a routine. What would be, and let's say we're talking to people who are new to this idea, new to this concept. What would be some good like introductory type exercises, workouts that individuals could start off with?
Number one thing is mentally prepare yourself for it. Know that if you're just starting out, it's not going to be easy, but you can do it. And there's going to be some things that, wherever you get your routine from, if there are things that you haven't done before or
Hmm.
exercises that you haven't done before, your first week you're going to be a little bit sore. Plan for it. It happened to me. It still happens to me when I switch my routine up. So that's the first thing. Prepare yourself mentally and set your intentions every day when you get up. Whatever that routine is, set the intention to do it because you know the challenges are coming.
Right.
Stick to your routine, right?
Right.
Um, Basic exercises, there's always push-ups. There's so many different ways to do it. There are planks.
Right.
You can do a plank on a wall. You can do push-ups on a wall. You can stretch. squats, right? Um, Lunges. There's so many exercises you can do without equipment. But later on, I'm going to give you guys just 5 exercises that you can do that create motion. They burn a lot of calories, and you feel a little bit better after you do them.
Very good, very good. So that kind of leads right into it. You're talking about routine. What do you think is the perfect blend of a type of schedule in terms of how frequent, time allocated to exercising per day? What are your thoughts on that?
The minimum recommendation for exercise is 5 days a week for 30 minutes.
Hmm.
So when you really think about it, it's what, 2.5 hours out of your
Yeah,
week.
sure.
2.5 hours out of your week, but 70% of our population, we don't do that. So if you're going to give so much time to everything else, give yourself 2.5 hours. You're worth it,
Sure.
right? So 5 days a week, and it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be 5 days in a row. Give yourself a couple of days of rest in between. So I would recommend at least 3 days of some type of resistance training. And it
Okay.
doesn't mean that you have to be in a gym, obviously, where we are now, but putting your muscles and your joints and your ligaments under some type of resistance that creates change, right?
Right.
And at least 2 other days of some type of cardio, core, and mobility work, where you start to lengthen out these tight muscles, you start to strengthen them, you start to put them under a different amount of stress, and you burn more calories on those cardio days. So 5 days a week.
Right. You brought up something interesting about switching it up, and that's always an argument that I've heard from a lot of fitness and health professionals. They talk about the importance of mixing up your workouts. What is the, I guess, mental or even the physiological benefit of providing that variety in your workout routine?
Mentally, it prevents boredom. It
Mm,
keeps you interested. It gives you new challenges. Like we were created to meet challenges. We've been challenged since day one, right? So having a different challenge in your routine, that's the best thing mentally. Having something else where you have to change how you think about it and change what you do. The second part of that is physically. Our bodies are built to adapt. So you're either going to adapt one way or the other way. If you sit for long periods of time, your body's going to adapt to that.
right.
Muscles are going to atrophy. You're going to get stiff. When you work out with different variations, I switch my routine every 4 weeks. Your
Wow.
body by week 2 and 3 knows what's coming. That's how we're built. And that's how you create change. Your week 3 is your week where you really see, are you getting results? How's your body responding? You should feel a lot stronger and feel better by week 3. Week 4 is when you really push yourself to create some change. After that, you switch it up. But with my fitness family, because I don't have clients, we have fitness family, we do a check-in every 4 weeks to measure results, update where you are, and then talk about that next phase of your training and lifestyle changes. 4 weeks.
Awesome. 4 weeks. Okay, good. That's the magic number. It's good. So, as we're kind of to build up and thinking about things from a schedule perspective, and I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with as they try to fit this in with their work schedule. But what are your thoughts? I mean, do you have any pros and cons about morning, afternoon, lunch? I mean, I can tell you for me personally, I've experimented with all types of things. I've again, I mentioned before, I was a swimmer, so I've done a lot of swimming before work. There were times where I would swim before work. I would work out after work too. What are your thoughts on the way to do the scheduling?
Work out when you have the most energy
Hmm.
because everyone's a little bit different. I know some people who are really extreme morning people and they're here at 5:30, 6 a.m. and they are giving it all they've got. And I have some other people, there's no way they're even up at 5:30. So when you
Yeah.
have the most energy, that's when you want to work out. So think about who you are, first of all, and when you're going to be at your best. But be honest about your time, your schedule, and what challenges you have. If you know you have meetings every day at noon, don't schedule a workout at noon.
Right.
Keep it simple. So think about your schedule and what you can truly commit to. And then when are you going to have the most energy?
Sure. As we talked about switching things up workout wise, do you see any benefit in also switching it up a routine in that, maybe certain times that you do the morning workout, sometimes you do the afternoon or the evening? Is there any added physical benefit from mixing it up, or is it better to keep with a routine for that?
It really depends on your goals. I
Okay.
have some people when I'm training them for a competition, they're up early in the morning doing fasted cardio on certain days where, they're doing their cardio workouts about 45 minutes,
Hmm.
and then they eat their breakfast after that. So it depends on your goals and where you want to be. But I would
Sure.
always stick to that rule of be honest about your schedule,
Hmm.
make sure it's something you can commit to, and work out when you have the most energy.
Sure. It's just a follow up, and you brought up a point that I think a lot of people struggle with too, in terms of how to coordinate your eating schedule with that. What is your recommendation in terms of an eating schedule as it's associated with your workout schedule?
The best thing that you can do when it comes to nutrition is space out your calories over a period of time,
Hmm.
right? 5 to 6, and I like to call them small meals, but that does include, so for example, breakfast,
Hmm.
snack, lunch, snack, then dinner, right? So it gives you the opportunity to spread your calories out. Try to avoid skipping meals. Every 2 to 4 hours, you should eat something. Of course, something healthy,
Sure.
but eat something every 2 to 4 hours. I usually stick to about 3 hours.
Okay.
And that's some part of that is how my day goes, but I'm training people from early morning until late at night. But I build in my schedule breaks so I can eat, because
Sure.
I know if I don't, I will just work and help people. So every 2 to 4 hours, eat something: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. That does not speed up your metabolism, but what it does, it lets your body know it's okay to burn fat.
Sure.
It's the biggest challenges. I have someone and I have to convince them that eating more will help them lose weight. I'll say it
Yeah.
again: eating more will help them lose weight. And it's not, sometimes it's actually more calories because they're
Mm.
not eating enough. So their body's storing fat
Right.
to survive. If you're not putting fuel in, your body's going to hold on to whatever fuel it has.
Sure.
So spread it out. Let your body know that it can trust you. It's getting something else so it doesn't have to hold on to fat.
Right. And that brings me to, I've heard a lot, there's a lot of theories about when to consume what. And, there's always been that adage that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Therefore, that should be when you consume the most food. What are your thoughts on that and the balance between meals?
I will say that it's different for every person because gut health is important.
Hmm.
And there are some people, there's certain foods they can't eat early in the morning because it may not sit well with them. But I agree, breakfast is the most important meal.
Hmm.
And typically, what I'll have someone do is eat more carbs earlier in the day, decrease those carbs as the day goes on, do the same, the opposite with their protein. So less protein in the morning, and it starts to do this. And the reason for that is your body, if you're eating a ton of carbs at night, it's probably when you're the least active. So
Sure.
you're not giving yourself the opportunity to burn those off. Proteins later on at night, your body burns calories to break down and process proteins. So you're in a better position if your body overnight is burning calories to process protein and break it down.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, and speaking of that, so we're starting to get into eating, into diet a little bit. So what would you say? Because as you know, we're in a world where there's a lot of people who want to be proclaimed experts, right? There's a lot of people who want
Oh,
to
yeah.
they want to kind of reinvent the wheel. There's all these new articles about here's what you haven't heard, here's some things that you should do, here's some things you shouldn't do, here's some myths. What to you, just from your experience, what do you think first off are some of the biggest misconceptions about nutrition and diet?
For me, one of the things that I see the most is no carbs.
Mm,
I get so many people that say they're on this no carb diet.
yeah.
Well, your body needs carbs. That's your first fuel source, and then
Sure.
fat's your second. So you don't want to put your body in a situation where you hit a plateau. The thing that works the most is balance. Balance. A balanced amount of healthy carbs, right? I think grains get a bad rap.
Mm,
You do need some whole wheat, multi-grain type things in your nutrition, of course, unless there's medical reasons why you should, right?
sure.
Just like there's some people who can't eat seeds, but balance, lean, lean, protein-rich, leucine meats, your chickens, turkey, fish, that type of thing.
Sure.
lots of more vegetables. That's the other thing. Leafy greens, fruit, create balance.
Sure. What would you say with that as you give some examples? Are there particular things you think about from a nutrition standpoint that maybe they've obtained this label as healthy food, but it's really not? Are there any things like that that come to mind when you hear those things?
Oh yeah, you see me smiling.
Yeah.
uh, Number one, I mean, there's a few, but the
Hmm.
ones that I coach people on the most are things like grapes, right?
Mm,
Grapes are fruit. They seem really healthy, but grapes are, it's a natural sugar, but it's a lot of sugar and it's high in carbs.
mm.
And it's also one of those fruits where it's so easy to just do this, right?
Yeah. One
You're
at a time
watching
food. Yep.
TV.
And
Oh,
all of a
you're
sudden the
sitting
bag's
at your
gone.
desk.
Yeah.
Right. So I have people log their food and we have a mobile app so it's easy to do.
Hmm.
And they look at how many carbs are in 20 grapes and they're like, oh my goodness, right? And it doesn't seem like a lot. So grapes are one, nuts are the other. And it's not that they're healthier choices than
Hmm.
a candy bar or something along those lines, but everything in moderation, like portion size is important. So I have, almonds, nuts, all those things. Consume those in smaller portions. We do need the nutrients that are in those fruits and foods, but control your portions. It's just easier to snack on those.
Sure.
Those are like the top two. Bananas, that's probably a close one.
Bananas. Yeah, it always makes me laugh sometimes when I see people. They might they'll down an entire thing of grapes and say, "Look, I had all these grapes, so healthy." Well, you weren't supposed to have 300 grapes.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And when I tell them, well, X amount of grapes is over 600 calories and 67 grams of carbs, they're shocked
sure.
because it's a lot of sugar.
Right, right.
Right. And you could choose other foods with less calories and actually get more nutrients from those other foods. For example, you could have blueberries. Mix the fruit up. Get
Hmm.
some blueberries. Grab a few strawberries. Mix in your fruits and vegetables. Maybe a little granola on top, or some chia seeds or something with a little Greek yogurt. And it'll be less calories. You'll feel more full, and it'll be healthier for you.
Sure. Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So how about just as I kind of talk about the whole misconception idea, how about just from a general fitness standpoint? What are some of the biggest misconceptions about fitness and exercising that you see these days?
I think one of the biggest ones is people feel like they have to be an expert, and it's a little bit overwhelming and intimidating if you haven't really exercised before, right? And there's so much out there on the internet because that's where most of us are right now, trying to find the answers. But I think that's the number one thing is you just have to get started. I always
Mhm.
say if it hurts, there's a difference between putting your muscles under strain and then pain. If it hurts your joints, don't do it. If your muscles hurt while you're doing it, don't do it. If it's a little muscle burn, that's different.
Sure.
But form is number one. I'm a stickler for form. So if you're a novice and you're not quite sure what to do, then stick to the basics. Stick to the basics, which, I mean, I'll show you guys some basic exercises later on. But that's the biggest misconception is that you either have to be an expert or people don't know what they're doing. They don't get results, I would say, in about 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and then they stop.
Sure.
Results don't happen in 2 weeks. It didn't
Right.
take you 2 weeks to get where you are, so it's not going to take you 2 weeks to create change. Change happens over time. If you're not measuring your results, it's harder to see it. It's harder to know, am I really getting results in 2 or 4 weeks, which is why the check-in process we have is so important.
Sure.
So keep going. Keep going. You're not going to see it in a week or two. Keep going.
Sure.
Consistency.
How do you? And that's said something interesting about the pain aspect, and I guess you're going to debunk that phrase, "No pain, no gain." I assume, um, but how do you distinguish? And this might be a tough question, but how do you distinguish between that the pain and that good soreness that you might experience following an exercise?
If something makes you go, ouch, I know
Yeah.
it sounds silly, right?
Yeah.
But we have to think about this like little kids, right?
Sure.
If something is like, oh, wow, that hurts. Or
Right.
if it's like, ooh, that burns, right? That's a difference. So muscles start to fatigue, right?
Mm,
So acids build up, lactic acid, all these other things, right? After that muscle's been worked a few times. So you're gonna feel a little bit of burn in those muscles while you're working. If you're doing biceps and
mhm.
your shoulder hurts, you're probably using too much shoulder. If
Right.
you're supposed to be doing a chest press, and I'm using shoulders because it's a stabilizer muscle. If
Mhm.
you're supposed to be doing a chest press or a push up and your shoulders and triceps hurt more, then typically that means there's something not quite right with your form. So
Sure.
you should know the primary muscle group you're working. That's the
Right.
first thing. And if anything feels fatigued or sore, it should be that muscle group first.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Um, well, great. So what we're going to do now, Al, I'll start with you. We talked a little bit about, we've been teasing this. We want to go ahead and just kind of turn it over to you and just see if you can just demonstrate some good at-home exercises. Sound good?
Absolutely. Let's have some fun.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Let's start with a few basic exercises. Some of these you may know, but we're going to talk about good form. All right, so I'm going to step back a little bit so you guys can see me. So push-ups. There's so many different ways to do push-ups, but you want to make sure that you're maximizing chest muscle and keeping the resistance or too much pressure out of your shoulders. So I'm going to show you guys good push-up form, side view. So hands should be lined up with your shoulders, right? The closer the hands are inside the shoulders, the tougher that push-up's going to be. So good rule of thumb is use your thumbs, line them up with your shoulders. Back flat, you don't want your back to sink in. Keep yourself up nice and tall. Squeeze your navel in, body should be in a plank. Elbows wide, push through your chest. Try not to drop your chin, don't raise your head. Stabilize your body so your chest is doing all the work. That's your basic push-up. If you need to modify, you should be here with your hips down, not here. Hips down, it should still look like a plank. Same motion with every other muscle group. Push through your chest, inhale down, exhale up. So that's your modified push-up. You can also do push-ups on a wall. Any place you have a floor or a wall, you can do push-ups. Number one goal, use your chest. That motion should look like this. Back flat, core tight. Let's talk a little bit about legs. Squats. If you have a stability ball, it's a great way to do that. Put the ball on the wall, lean up against it, use it to keep your body stable. You want to get to the back of your legs on your squats, feet forward, toes to the front, chest stays up, feet stay flat. This is actually part of one of the assessments that we do with some other modifications to see what muscle groups are stronger and what we need to work on. Navel's always tight. If you have imbalances, those toes are going to try to turn out. You might see your knees go out or knees buckle in. Lean back on your heels just a little bit or hold your toes up a little bit, and it helps you keep everything lined up. So far we've covered push-ups, we've covered squats. Planks are always a good one. Same form as your push-ups. Start on all four. Hands slightly outside the shoulders and lined up with your shoulders. Tuck your hips, navel in tight, and breathe. Start with 30 seconds if this is tough. Then go to 45 seconds, then work your way up to 60 or more. If you can beat that guy who set the world record, do it. Get him every time. That's goals. All right, more on legs. Lunges. All right, you don't need any weights to do them. You've got front lunges, reverse lunges, side lunges, but form is always the key. I'm gonna start with front lunges. Start with your feet as wide as your hips. You wanna keep everything lined up. We always say on the same track, right? You don't wanna step inside your hips or outside your hips. Keep everything lined up. Navel in, chest up tall. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. When you step out, you're going right to the ball of this back foot, taking your body toward the floor. You wanna get your hamstrings and your glutes involved. pushing yourself straight back to the top. Other side, same thing. Chest up, bend the knees, push from here. That's an alternating front lunge. You want toes forward, chest up. Side view looks like this. Chest up, core tight because it helps you balance and it keeps you from leaning forward. Feet as wide as your hips. Bend that knee, push from here. Other side, toes forward. So if you're at home and this is difficult, hold on to the wall. It gives you a little bit of support. You can hold on to the side of a couch, a chair, something stable. If this is tough, give yourself a little bit of a push. But try to push yourself to use full range of motion. What that means is going all the way through that range of motion where you're getting both legs involved, hamstrings, quads, and pushing yourself back to the top. Shoulders, another muscle group that most people don't work enough. You can work shoulders from home without weights. If your arms are here, try to bring them all the way to the top, fingertips to the sky. Back out. Slow down your movements. You get to work on range of motion. These are the lateral raises. If you don't have weights, do more reps. Start with 25 of these. You can also do half range. Go halfway. And just do more reps. So lateral raises for shoulders. Arms here. Rotate your knuckles to the front. Knuckles to the sky. This is also range of motion. It's part of what we call a Cuban press, but we're not gonna press them over my head. We're just gonna rotate. So you get to work on a little bit of your rear delts, the back of the shoulders, and your front deltoids, front of the shoulders. Slowing it down. If you don't have weights, you wanna put the muscle under more tension. Relax your neck. Trust me, your shoulders will be on fire. All right, I gotta shake these shoulders out. I'm starting to feel it. Core. So planks are total body. That's core. Let's talk about ab workouts. Lower abs are usually your weakest parts of your abdominal muscles. So if you're on your back, put your hands at your side. You can also put your hands underneath you. Right? I'm gonna go hands at my side. Relax your body, tuck your hips and flatten out your back. Take your legs as low as you can without an arch in your back. Bring them to the top. So let's talk about breathing. Inhale down, exhale up. If that's too difficult, bend your knees. Modify, right? Tap your heels, bring the knees back to 90 degrees. Heel tap, and back up. As long as your back isn't arching, but squeeze the abs in, navel in tight. Inhale down, exhale up. Obliques, side muscles that protect those ribs. So we're gonna start with a full side plank. Elbow under your shoulder. Hold your body here. So many ways to modify this. I'm gonna show you a few. This is a full side plank. You can put your hand here if you need it. I would rather you bend the back foot behind you. That's your half kneeling side plank. If this is too difficult, bend both and start here. Start with 30 seconds, then work your way up. Relax your neck though. And then drop that hip. So that's a few basic exercises that you can do no matter where you are. Get your body moving, but the best thing I'll tell you guys is stretch. Stretching is very underrated. We need to keep our muscles loose. If your muscles are too tight, it impacts how your joints move, which impacts your range of motion and how you feel, right? So stretch. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to talk about that in a different episode. So the more you move, the better you feel. Focus on your nutrition, and we're all in this together. So you guys have great information, share it with someone you know. Thank you.
All right, Al, that was awesome. Um,
And we're back.
we are back. Yeah, it was awesome. Well, good. Before, again, I appreciate all the time today. Do you have any other closing thoughts or tips for anybody?
We are dealing with something that we've never dealt with before, right? One of our biggest challenges is staying upbeat, staying motivated. The great thing about it is we get to choose. We get to choose how we perceive everything around us. Choose to be happy. Choose to see the brighter side of things. And I know it may be easier. It sounds, very easy, but it really is a choice. You wake up and it's not sunny outside. So many other things that you have to be thankful for, right? Um, Control what you read, what you see in the news. They're giving us a lot of information. We need the information, but don't let it get you down, right? There's so many people out there who are doing well. There are people who are spending time with their families. They're doing things that they never had a chance to do because they were so busy. For me personally, I've actually had a chance to slow down and focus on some of the things that I didn't have a chance to do when I was in the gym helping people for so many hours or working on my business in other ways. So spend time with your family, focus on the good, stay upbeat, and just find balance. Take a few moments out of your day for yourself to sit and focus on you. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. I do that anyway, but I've had a chance to listen to more. And I spent some time on personal development. That's the biggest thing for me is focus on yourself, spend time with family, and choose the good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Al, really appreciate the time with everything too. You said something about an app that individuals can use. What was that you were talking about, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm glad you asked.
Sure.
uh, Rip City Fitness has always had an online component because we understand that a lot of what you do and your success and your lifestyle changes happen when you're not with us. So we have a mobile app and online platform, ripcityfitness.com. If you go to your app store, search and it's RIPP, Rip City Fitness. Download the app. We have online memberships. Our basic membership is like 30 something cents a day. You get access to the app. There are thousands of exercises, over 2,000 exercises, 3D demos. So if you're not quite sure what your form should look like, we've got that taken care of for you. You can build your own program. There's workouts that you can simply tap into. We have an entire section dedicated to at-home workouts. There's a next level that gives you video or exercise videos on demand, nutrition tracker with a barcode scanner. We try to make it as easy as possible. And the other level, which is the ultimate, gives you all that I mentioned, but you also get an opportunity to tap into our live workouts, right? You get a chance to be social right in your living room. We call it the Rip City crew. We love seeing each other, even if it's online, just like we are right now. We look forward to still being engaged, still seeing the people that we interacted with and meeting new people. You get to meet someone new and actually get a workout buddy, right from your home or backyard or wherever it is you work. Stay active. We want to make it as easy as possible. ripcityfitness.com and Rip City Fitness mobile app.
Okay. Awesome. I'll probably be checking that out myself. So I hope everybody did as well that's listening. So again, I really appreciate your time. I think this was a great episode, very informative. I know I learned some things, that's for sure. So again, I appreciate everything, and appreciate everybody else for watching and listening, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Casey. Pleasure being here, and I appreciate it.